check out the latest footwear innovation from Adidas, the Adizero Adios Pro 2, which features carbon fiber energy rods that are both lightweight and precisely tuned for a more anatomical transition. Everything from the ultra-light polyester upper to the resculpted midsole and the reinvented outsoles are designed for speed. Visit adidas.com to learn more today.
Hello there, I'm Chuck Todd. I just got off the Meet the Press set this Sunday. We just wrapped up interviews with Bill Cassidy and Dr. Anthony Fauci. I'm also sitting here with John Reese. He's the executive producer of Meet the Press.
Nice to meet you, Chuck.
Meet you. You're Mr. Reese?
If you want. Yeah.
Okay. And the point of this, we want to talk a little bit about the show that just wrapped, what we learned from it, and also give you a little taste of the cutting room floor sometimes, because I know Sundays can be rough for anyone. Look, it's funny. I know the official news, John, is about the booster shots. Yeah. But it's like politically, what did I take away from it? It was the way Bill Cassidy handled the Trump issue. Like, he owes nobody, he voted to convict the guy. We know where he stands.
Oh, Trump owes him nothing. He owes Trump nothing.
But he did not want to pour fuel on the Trump's a problem fire. That was fascinating.
He didn't, but he also made it very clear that if in his position is, if the Republicans spend the next couple of years relitigating the election, i.e. supporting the president, they're going to lose.
But he wouldn't say supporting the president. That's what was fascinating, right?
A word he didn't use, Trump.
Right. I was going to say I know if I say he never used it, he may have used it once or something, and we'll get killed on social media, but it felt like he didn't want to say his name.
No, I think, and he must have made that point 4 times in the interview, in a 8-minute interview. So it was clear, he came on the show. He wanted to come on.
He thinks it's important. I mean, I do say he does believe there needs to be a counter messaging. I mean, he agrees with Adam Kinzinger, who says, correct. You got to push back on this, but gently.
Well, and look, he voted to convict. So he's laid his marker.
So besides that, what'd you take away?
Well, I mean, the other thing is he's being a good Republican on the debt ceiling. I mean, he was very, very clear and pushed back quite a bit on when you pointed out, hey, the debt ceiling really is about money that's already been appropriated and spent. He said, nope, not necessarily. And I don't want to litigate that argument, but
it's not true.
I
understand I understand the messaging, but the debt ceiling fight, John, I don't know about you. I'm just so exhausted from these silly crises.
You always hear people in Washington talk about, well, people at home don't care about that sort of thing. You know what? People at home don't care about that.
They'll care if it goes off the rails, but it's always one of those, only if it goes off the rails.
Well, let me tell you, this is what I do for a living, and I don't care, right? Like, look, we're not going to default. This is how I look at it. We're not going to default. Just tell me when it's over. And it'll be over 5 minutes before the deadline, which is what usually happens. And anyway, the Democrats do have the votes. I think the Republicans like the idea of the Democrats raising the debt ceiling so they can say, hey, the Democrats are doing a lot of spending.
And yet, I don't think a single person is going to punish a Democrat for raising the debt ceiling.
I don't think people care.
If you're going to vote against the Democrats, it's not going to be over the debt ceiling.
That's right.
And frankly, vice versa with the Republicans.
Right.
It's not that. All right, let's get to the cutting room floor. We always talk about what we don't get to. I will say this. I do think story count wise, and it'll give a little behind the scenes here. There's 2 guest shows and 3 guest shows, as we like to talk about here, right, John? 2 guest show, the interviews breathe a little bit more, and today's interviews breathe a little bit more.
Not only that, but the 2 guest shows give us a lot of time with the panel, which is my favorite part. And we had a lot of great panel discussion today. Yeah. Does it make news? No. Is it fun to watch and listen to? Yeah, I think so. And there was some great back and forth on that panel, especially between Maria Teresa Kumar and Rich Lowry. And a lot of it about Trump's hold on the party, which was what we did near the end of the show. Or I should say at the end of the broadcast. And I think that Rich Lowry, the editor of National Review, a very conservative magazine, is also concerned about the Republican Party relying too much on President Trump.
It's interesting. I asked him about the donors. How come donors aren't moving this way? And he said, well, most of the donors are sort of with Trump.
Yeah. Well, doesn't it seem like most of the Republicans are with Trump? I mean, for all this talk about how, okay, there are lots of Republicans remaining silent, I don't see it. And the polling certainly within the Republican Party shows that this party right now, I don't know that there's that much of a distinction between whether you are for Trump or whether you are for the Republican Party.
So if we had done a third segment in this show, and this is this week, to me, you had two big stories that we touched on, but that we could have made arguably its own segment. And I would argue one is what's happening at the border with the migrants and the Haitians, and this spat with France. Here, what do you lament?
The missile strike, the errant missile strike.
Yeah.
There are 10 innocent people killed in that, including 7 children, it appears. And that's on a different week, that might have been a bigger story.
This really, I mean, it puts the Afghanistan story in even a worse place.
Yes, it does. There's nothing good that happened that week beyond what we didn't really see, which was the evacuation of so many people. But I mean, you and I were talking earlier, all during the Obama administration that was talked about is this event Obama's Katrina? Is this event Obama's Katrina? I wonder whether this event is, if not Biden's Katrina, it's a Katrina-like event.
Well, this gets I know some folks on social media are all fired up because I said the president has some credibility challenges.
Yeah.
And look, the fact is it's because of this. He has said it's not going to be Saigon. It looked a lot like Saigon.
He was right. It was worse.
Yeah. We know we have over the horizon capabilities to get these terrorists. The first shot missed in this new over horizon strategy. Everybody's going to get boosters in 5 months. No, we're not going to have everybody. This is seasonal down at the border. No, it's not seasonal. He has to, because he can't allow this to metastasize. The thing about Katrina that people forget is Bush's handling of the Iraq War wasn't great before Katrina. It became catastrophic after, didn't it?
Well, as you know, since you study this, when people lose confidence in you on one issue, all the other poll numbers begin to fall too. All of a sudden, the president isn't doing such a great job in the economy, the war, et cetera. And that's what happened to Bush after Katrina in 2005. And I think the White House has reason to be concerned that this may have just happened to Biden.
Hey, look, I think the next couple of months are going to follow the Haley Barbour rule of politics. What is it? Bad gets worse and good gets better. At some point, things will turn for Biden and he'll have some good moments. The next 6 weeks feels like it's not going to be one of those.
And a lot of people look at what happened with the FDA advisory panel on Friday as bad news for Biden. I don't think it really is.
No. But it's confusing. It's not helpful, but it's not bad.
And you could say that Dr. Fauci was spinning a little bit, but I think actually what he said was pretty accurate. That is that the people who are covered by the Pfizer vaccine, people who are 65 or older, or in people who are either are immunocompromised or have jobs that put them at risk, that comprises a large segment of the population. So a lot of people, as of this week, late this week, may be able to start lining up to get booster shots.
I spend some of my Sunday starting to think about what's going to be in First Read on Monday. What am I thinking about for the cable show? You immediately also start thinking about next Sunday. If you could, do you have an idea? What do you anticipate we're going to end up? One of our segments will be next Sunday.
Here's the easy thing.
Yeah.
Like you always pick the champion because the champ only loses once. Right now, COVID is our news champion.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want COVID to be the lead. I know you don't necessarily want COVID to be the lead.
Well, and we say that not because, we don't, it's just only so much you have to say, right?
You had a great interview with Dr. Fauci. And I refer to him often to folks as your co-host. Yeah. Because he's been on every 3 weeks for some time here and other places.
What's a story one more story that you think will make the radar next week?
It's hard to know. It's hard to know what on
I
Sunday.
Feel like Capitol Hill will, but I don't know how.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of Washington inside politics. The question is, when we get together this week and say, okay, what are we going to do? Do we say, oh, this is another wake me before it's over story, Washington story, which is why, and I tend to be like that. And I think I know you acknowledge that as well. And so I'm not inclined to go with a Washington lead about what's happening with the reconciliation bill and infrastructure, because I think most people feel that they're happy to hear what happens once it's over.
We always joke, politicians have to meet voters where they are, and we have to meet viewers where they are. And we know viewers are caring about one issue. When the hell are we getting COVID behind us?
That's it. And I think I think there's some good news for them this week.
All right. In the fall, if it's Sunday, every Sunday, it's Meet the Press. But in the fall, if it's Sunday, it's also some football. Who's got more to lose on 0-2 start? You're a Bills fan, and as people may not know this, at Meet the Press, we're contractually obligated to have one major Bills fan in a major, either as the moderator or as the executive producer.
And just so people know, because I have in my office a Bills pennant.
Yeah,
it's the red helmet pennant. So, which means I've had that for 25, 30 years.
I'm a Packer fan. We're both 0-1.
Yeah.
0-2 are catastrophic for both teams. I think less catastrophic for your people than mine, but where's your head?
Well, I always see the tunnel at the end of the light. So I'm pretty nervous about today, and I've been reading up on it. And
play the Dolphins, right?
We play that Swish the Fish week.
Boy, in the 80s, the game of the week would have been Bills-Dolphins. Kelly versus Marino. You didn't want to miss that.
Nope.
And maybe Allen versus Tua becomes it.
And for years, it was the Dolphins won constantly. And then by the late 80s, it became all Bills through the mid-90s. I don't know. I got nervous last week because Josh Allen threw 51 times. And when you throw 51 times, that says something about your running game, right? And beyond that, when you have 4th and half a yard to go and you decide to go with a gadget play because you don't think you can make the half a yard, that says something about your running game.
That is a little nervous. Although I will say this with Bills Mafia is that when the Dolphins were really terrible about 10 years ago, it was the sellouts they would get would be only when Bills fans went south to go see them on the road.
How are you feeling about the Packers tomorrow night?
So my teams are the University of Miami and Green Bay, and we played the state of Michigan. And the state of Michigan kicked some Miami, you know what Michigan State did on Saturday. I'm not ruling anything out. I'm nervous. I didn't want to utter it before, but the whole Aaron Rodgers drama, that feels like we know it feels like they could lose the locker room. Like that's what I'm worried about. And this loss could be a spiral because it's Detroit. Like you cannot lose any games to Detroit.
And you can't say if you lose tomorrow, well, it's just one game. Because, teams do have stinkers, and stinkers the first week
and
are rough.
The single most annoying statistic that everybody's going to hear on ESPN is to see the number of 0-2 teams that never make the playoffs.
Never make the playoffs.
It is one of those, and it is true. You start 0-2, it is hard, although now we play 17 games.
Well,
so maybe,
you know why? Because if you lose the first 2 games, you may not be very good.
Especially if one of them is a divisional.
Yeah.
And usually one of those 2 are. All right, this is a new thing we want to do. We're going to bring, no offense, John, you're not going to be the only Meet the Presser that's going to show up on this. But we'll get your Bills takes. Okay. That's for sure. Good show, my friend.
All right, go Yankees too.
Oh, don't poison the feed with this crazy Yankee talk. Are you guys gonna be out in the first round or the second round?
I don't think we're gonna be in any round.
Yeah, well, ooh, wow, bold prediction from a demoralized Yankee fan.
Yeah, a realistic one.
All right, thank you, John.
Check out the latest footwear innovation from Adidas, the Adizero Adios Pro 2, which features carbon fiber energy rods that are both lightweight and precisely tuned for a more anatomical transition. Everything from the ultra-light polyester upper to the re-sculpted midsole and the reinvented outsoles are designed for speed. Visit adidas.com to learn more today.